Part 3. The Ultimatum. The Defiance was not an impressive ship. Compared to the massive Talvek warships that now orbited Mars, it looked like a toy. It was small, sleek, and painted pure white. No weapons were visible on its hull. To anyone watching, it appeared to be exactly what it was designed to look like: a diplomatic vessel carrying humans who wanted to negotiate their surrender. Hyun-woo sat in the co-pilot seat, watching the alien fleet grow larger on the view screen. Dae-sung occupied the pilot seat, his hands steady on the controls despite the danger they were flying toward. Behind them, Dr. Minji checked and rechecked her equipment, making sure every system was ready for what they were about to do. "They're hailing us," Hyun-woo reported, seeing the communication signal light up his console. "Accept it," Dae-sung said calmly. The view screen changed to show a Talvek officer, his silver skin gleaming in the light of his ship's bridge. His dark eyes studied them with obvious contempt. "Unidentified human vessel, you are entering a restricted military zone. State your purpose immediately or be destroyed." Dae-sung leaned forward slightly, his voice calm and respectful. "This is the Earth diplomatic ship Defiance. We carry a message from our world's leaders to Admiral Kael'vor. We request an audience." The Talvek officer laughed, a harsh sound that made Hyun-woo's skin crawl. "You wish to surrender? How wise. You will be escorted to the flagship. Any deviation from the flight path we provide will result in your immediate destruction. Do you understand?" "We understand," Dae-sung replied. Two Talvek fighters appeared on either side of the Defiance, close enough that Hyun-woo could see the alien pilots inside their cockpits. They guided the small Earth ship through the massive fleet, past warships that bristled with weapons, past carriers that could deploy thousands of attack craft, past the command ships that coordinated the entire armada. Finally, they approached the largest vessel in the fleet. The Sovereign's wrath was enormous, a floating city of metal and energy. It could probably destroy Earth's entire orbital defense network in minutes. Weapons that could crack planets lined its hull. Shields that could withstand nuclear weapons shimmered around it like a heat haze. The Defiance landed in a vast hangar bay filled with Talvek military vehicles. Armed soldiers surrounded the ship as soon as the landing gear touched down. They wore armor that made them look even more intimidating, and they carried weapons that glowed with barely contained energy. "Ready?" Dae-sung asked quietly. "No," Hyun-woo admitted, "but let's do this anyway." Dr. Minji picked up her equipment case, a simple silver box that contained the demonstration device. "Remember, no matter what happens, stay calm. They expect us to be afraid. Show them respect, but not fear." The three humans stepped out of their ship and into the heart of enemy territory. The Talvek soldiers formed a corridor of weapons, all pointed at the visitors. An officer stepped forward, his armor more ornate than the others. "Follow me," he commanded. "Do not touch anything. Do not deviate from the path. Disobedience will be met with lethal force." They walked through corridors that seemed designed to intimidate. Everything was too large, too tall, built for beings bigger than humans. Holographic displays showed maps of conquered worlds, each one marked with the Talvek symbol of dominion. They passed windows that showed the fleet spread out in perfect military formation, a demonstration of overwhelming power. Finally, they entered a grand chamber that could have held 1,000 people. The ceiling rose 30 meters above them, covered in displays showing tactical information. And in the center of the room, elevated on a platform, sat Admiral Kael'vor. He was even larger than Hyun-woo had expected, his silver skin gleaming in the harsh light. Around him stood dozens of other Talvek officers, all wearing the insignia of command. They studied the three humans with expressions ranging from curiosity to disgust. "So," Kael'vor's voice boomed across the chamber, "humanity has decided to surrender. Wise but too late to avoid consequences. You will—" "We have not come to surrender," Dae-sung interrupted, his voice calm but carrying clearly through the vast space. Silence fell across the chamber. Several Talvek officers reached for their weapons. Kael'vor raised a hand, stopping them. "Explain yourself, human," the Admiral said slowly, his voice dangerous. Dae-sung walked forward, stopping at the base of the platform. Hyun-woo and Minji flanked him, forming a triangle. They looked tiny in the huge chamber. Three small humans surrounded by hundreds of alien warriors. "We have come to deliver our own ultimatum," Dae-sung said. "You have threatened our world. You have given us a deadline to surrender. We are here to give you a counter-proposal. You have 12 hours to leave our solar system. If you do not, We will demonstrate why threatening Earth was a mistake. The chamber erupted in laughter. Talvek officers turned to each other, sharing jokes in their own language. Kael'vor himself smiled, though there was no warmth in it. You are brave, human, I will grant you that. Foolish beyond measure, but brave. You stand in my flagship surrounded by 300 warships and you threaten me? He leaned forward. Your planet has no weapons that can touch us. Your technology is centuries behind ours. What could you possibly do to threaten the Talvek Empire? We don't need to threaten you, Daesung replied. We just need to show you what we're capable of. Dr. Minji, if you please. Minji opened her silver case and removed the demonstration device. It looked harmless, just a small metallic sphere no larger than an apple. She placed it on the floor between them and the Admiral, then pressed a button on her wrist device. What is that supposed to? Kael'vor began, then stopped. Every screen in the chamber suddenly changed. The tactical displays, the communication systems, even the lighting controls. All of them now showed Earth's symbol, a blue and green globe surrounded by stars. But that wasn't the important part. On every screen, data began streaming. Specifications for every ship in the Talvek fleet, exact locations of shield generators, weapon systems, power cores, life support, command bridges, schematics showing the weakest points in armor plating, calculations showing exactly how much force would be needed to disable each ship without destroying it. For the past 72 hours, Daesung said calmly, we have been scanning your fleet. We know everything about your ships. We know where your admiral is standing right now. We know how many soldiers you have, what weapons they carry, even what you had for your last meal. Kael'vor stood slowly, his face showing something humans had never seen there before. Uncertainty. Impossible, he said. Your technology cannot penetrate your shields? Daesung smiled. Watch carefully, Admiral. Dr. Minji is about to prove just how wrong you are. Minji pressed another button. The demonstration device activated with a pulse of energy that made the air itself shimmer. For exactly 3.7 seconds, the shields around the Sovereign's wrath disappeared. Every monitoring system in the fleet registered it. Every Talvek officer saw their flagship become vulnerable. And in those 3.7 seconds, the screen showed firing solutions. Precise calculations showing how Earth's weapons could have struck 47 critical systems across the entire fleet. Not enough to destroy everything, but enough to cripple the fleet's ability to fight back. The shields came back online. The demonstration ended. The small device shut down, having made its point. Complete silence filled the chamber. You could have killed us all, Kael'vor said quietly, his voice shaking with an emotion humans couldn't identify. In those few seconds, you could have ended this fleet. Yes, Daesung agreed. But we didn't, because unlike you, we don't destroy others simply because we can. We defend ourselves when necessary, but we prefer peace. So I'll say it again, Admiral. You have 12 hours to leave our solar system. After that, we stop being nice. Hyunwoo watched the Talvek officers around the room. Some looked angry. Some looked afraid. Some looked at the three humans with something that might have been respect. Kael'vor descended from his platform and approached Daesung. The alien admiral towered over the human diplomat, but Daesung didn't flinch or step back. You realize, Kael'vor said slowly, that even if we leave, others will come. The galaxy will learn about Earth now. Species far more dangerous than us will seek to test you. Let them come, Daesung replied. Let them all know what happened here. Let them know that Earth can be a friend or an enemy. But we will never be prey. Let them know we judge species by their actions, not their technology. And let them know that we're ready for whatever comes next. Kael'vor studied the human for a long moment, then stepped back. I must consult with the High Council. You will wait here. As the Admiral left the chamber with his senior officers, Hyunwoo released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Around them, Talvek soldiers kept their weapons ready. But they looked at the three humans differently now. Did it work? Hyunwoo whispered to Minji. We'll know soon enough, she replied quietly. Either they leave or we go to war. The three humans stood in the center of the vast chamber, waiting for the fate of two civilizations to be decided. Part 1. The arrival. The stars looked different that night. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of Guardian 7, Earth's largest orbital defense platform, and watched the darkness of space with growing unease. His coffee had gone cold in his hand, forgotten as he stared at the sensor readings on the glass display before him. Something was coming. The alert had started 3 hours ago as a minor anomaly. Now it was impossible to ignore. 312 massive objects were moving through space toward Earth's solar system. They were still far away, beyond Neptune's orbit, but they were coming fast. Too fast for asteroids. Too organized for natural phenomena. Behind him, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Lieutenant Jiwoo rushed in, her face pale with worry. She carried a data tablet that trembled slightly in her hands. "Sir, we've completed the analysis," she said quietly. "They're ships. Alien ships. And they're heading directly toward Earth." Hyunwoo took the tablet from her and scrolled through the data. Each ship was enormous, some larger than anything humanity had ever built. The fleet moved in perfect formation, suggesting military discipline and advanced technology. His stomach tightened as he read the projected arrival time. 72 hours. "Has Earth Command been notified?" he asked. "Yes, sir. They're convening the United Defense Council now. All military forces are being placed on high alert." Jiwoo hesitated, then added, "Sir, what do you think they want?" Hyunwoo had no answer for her. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was arriving with over 300 warships. Down on Earth, in the underground conference room beneath Geneva, world leaders gathered in emergency session. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists filled the circular chamber, their faces illuminated by the glow of holographic displays showing the approaching fleet. Admiral Kalvor of the Talvek Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign's Wrath. He was tall, even for his species, with silver skin that reflected the blue light of his command displays. His eyes, dark and cold, studied the small blue planet that filled the main view screen. "Report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. His tactical officer, a younger Talvek named Rixon, manipulated the holographic controls before him. "Initial scans confirm the planet is inhabited, Admiral. Population approximately 8 billion. Technology level is primitive. They have basic space travel, nuclear capability, and simple energy weapons. No plasma technology, no quantum shields, no faster-than-light capability." Kelvor smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "Another easy conquest. The High Council will be pleased. This system has resources we need, and the inhabitants are too backward to pose any threat." "Should we broadcast the standard surrender demand?" Rixon asked. "Yes. Give them 72 hours to comply. Not that it matters." They have no choice but to submit. The broadcast reached Earth 12 minutes later. Every television, every radio, every connected device on the planet suddenly displayed the same message. Kalvor's face appeared, his alien features both fascinating and terrifying to billions of humans watching. "Attention, inhabitants of the planet you call Earth." The translation software rendered his words into every human language simultaneously. "I am Admiral Kalvor of the Talvek Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our dominion. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. All military forces must stand down. All governments must submit to imperial authority. Resistance is futile and will result in the complete annihilation of your species. Choose wisely." The transmission ended, leaving behind a shocked silence across the entire planet. In Seoul, people poured into the streets, looking up at the sky as if they could see the alien fleet. In New York, the stock markets crashed within minutes. In Moscow, military commanders began preparing for a war they knew they could not win. Everywhere, humanity faced the same terrible truth. They were not alone in the universe, and the neighbors they had finally met wanted to destroy them. Hyunwoo watched the broadcast from Guardian 7, his hands gripping the railing of the observation deck until his knuckles turned white. Around him, his crew stood frozen, stunned by what they had just witnessed. "Sir, what are our orders?" Jiwoo asked quietly. Before Hyunwoo could answer, his personal communicator chimed with an urgent priority signal. He accepted the call, and the face of General Park appeared on the small screen. "Commander Hyunwoo, you are to report immediately to coordinates that will be transmitted to your secure channel. A shuttle is being dispatched to collect you. Tell no one where you are going. This is classified at the highest level." "Sir, I don't understand. My place is here defending—" "Your place is where I tell you it is, Commander." General Park interrupted, though his tone was not harsh. There was something else in his voice, something that sounded almost like hope. "What I'm about to tell you is known to fewer than 100 people on this planet. Earth is not as defenseless as it appears. Report to the coordinates." "That's an order." The transmission ended, leaving Hyunwoo staring at the blank screen. Earth had secrets. What kind of secrets could possibly matter against 300 alien warships? The shuttle arrived 40 minutes later, its sleek black hull reflecting no light as it docked with Guardian 7. Hyunwoo boarded without explanation to his crew, carrying only a small bag with basic necessities. As the shuttle detached and began its descent toward Earth, he looked back at the orbital platform he had called home for 2 years. Below him, Earth turned slowly in the void, beautiful and fragile. Clouds swirled over blue oceans. Lights from cities sparkled across the dark portions of the continents. Somewhere up there, beyond his ability to see, 300 alien warships were drawing closer with each passing minute. The shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere, and flames licked at the windows as friction heated the hull. Hyunwoo closed his eyes and thought about the Admiral's words. Resistance is futile, complete annihilation, but General Park had said something different. Earth is not as defenseless as it appears. As the shuttle descended through the clouds toward an unknown destination, Hyunwoo allowed himself a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, humanity had one more trick left to play. Maybe the Talvik Empire had made a terrible mistake by threatening Earth. He would know soon enough. The timer on every screen across Earth continued its countdown. 69 hours until the deadline. 69 hours until humanity either surrendered or fought back against impossible odds. The shuttle's landing gear deployed with a heavy thunk, and Hyunwoo prepared to learn Earth's greatest secret. Part 4. The Precipice. The waiting was the hardest part. Hyunwoo, Daesung, and Dr. Minji stood in the grand chamber for what felt like hours, while Talvik soldiers watched them with weapons ready. No one spoke. The tension in the room was so thick it felt difficult to breathe. Meanwhile, light years away, the Talvik High Council convened an emergency session. The council chamber was ancient, built from materials that had existed before Earth's sun was born. 12 council members sat in a circle, their faces projected on holographic displays that allowed them to meet despite being scattered across different star systems. Councillor Thexim spoke first, his voice harsh with anger. This is an insult to our empire. A primitive species threatens us? We should reduce their planet to ash and glass. Make an example of them so no other world dares such insolence. Several council members nodded in agreement, but Councillor Eva Ara raised her hand for attention. She was the oldest member of the council, having served for over 2 centuries. Her silver skin had faded to an almost white color with age, and her dark eyes had seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. Have we learned nothing from history? She asked quietly. The Keltar Empire thought the same thing 3,000 years ago. They found a young species that threatened them, dismissed it as primitive nonsense, and attacked. The Keltar no longer exist. That young species learned war from them, adapted, evolved, and eventually destroyed their conquerors. These humans are different, Thexim argued. They showed us a trick with their shields, nothing more. They cannot possibly have weapons capable of truly harming our fleet. Can't they? Ivara pulled up the data that Admiral Kelvor had transmitted. Look at this analysis. The way they penetrated our shields doesn't match any known technology in the galactic database. They approached the problem from a completely different angle. That's what makes them dangerous. Not their current power, but their potential. On Earth, the 12-hour countdown was being broadcast on every screen. Humanity watched in collective anxiety as the deadline approached. In cities around the world, people gathered in public spaces, holding vigils, praying to whatever gods they believed in. Some celebrated, convinced that Earth's demonstration had scared the aliens away. Others prepared for the worst, certain that war was inevitable. In the underground facility beneath Switzerland, General Park monitored communications from the Defiance. He hadn't heard from Hyunwoo or the others since they delivered the ultimatum. That silence worried him more than anything else. Sir, we're detecting movement in the Talvik fleet, a technician reported. Several ships are adjusting their positions. General Park studied the tactical display. The alien ships were forming a new configuration. It could mean they were preparing to attack, or it could mean they were preparing to leave. There was no way to know. Aboard the Sovereign's Wrath, Admiral Kelvor returned to the chamber where the 3 humans waited. His expression was unreadable as he approached them. The High Council is debating your fate, he said. Some wish to make examples of you. Others argue for caution. I have been authorized to conduct one final test of your capabilities. What kind of test? Taesung asked, though Hyunwoo could hear the tension in his voice. A minor one, Kael'vor replied. We will target one of your military installations. If you can defend it without destroying any of our ships, we will consider your claims legitimate. If you cannot, we will know you are bluffing and we will proceed with the invasion. That's not acceptable, Hyunwoo said, speaking for the first time since entering the chamber. You don't get to attack us to test if we can defend ourselves. That's an act of war. You threatened us first, Kael'vor replied. Consider this our counter-demonstration. Choose which installation you wish us to target. We will give you 5 minutes to prepare your defenses. Daesung and Hyunwoo exchanged glances. They had no authority to make such a decision, but they also had no way to contact Earth Command from inside the alien flagship. Dr. Minji stepped forward. Target Guardian 7, she said quietly. Commander Hyunwoo's former station. It's primarily automated now, with minimal crew, but it represents Earth's orbital defense network. If we can protect it, you'll know we can protect anything. Kael'vor nodded slowly. Very well. Guardian 7 will be the target. My ships will attack in exactly 5 minutes. Show me what humanity can do. The 3 humans were escorted to an observation room where they could watch the test. Through the windows, they could see 3 Talvek destroyers breaking formation and moving toward Earth. On the room's displays, they could see Guardian 7 highlighted in red, marked as the target. Can we really stop them? Hyunwoo asked quietly. Earth Command has been monitoring everything, Dr. Minji replied. They know what's happening. They'll be ready. But Guardian 7 has crew members, Hyunwoo said, his voice tight with worry. Lieutenant Jiwoo is still up there. All my people. They've been evacuating non-essential personnel since we left, Daesung assured him. But you're right to worry. This is real now. People could die. The 5 minutes felt like 5 seconds. The Talvek destroyers reached optimal firing range and unleashed their weapons. Plasma bolts, bright as stars, streaked toward Guardian 7. Each bolt carried enough energy to punch through meters of steel armor. The humans watching held their breath. Kael'vor stood behind them, his dark eyes fixed on the display, waiting to see if they had been telling the truth. Then something impossible happened. The 3 Talvek destroyers simply stopped. No explosion. No visible weapon hitting them. They just froze in space as if time itself had stopped for them. Their weapons went dark. Their engines shut down. Their shields collapsed. What did you do? Kael'vor demanded, his voice rising with something that might have been fear. We kept our promise, Dr. Minji replied calmly. We defended our station without destroying your ships. Your vessels are undamaged. All crew members are alive and unharmed, but every system on those 3 ships is now frozen. They won't respond to any commands. They're just floating in space, completely helpless. On the display, they could see Guardian 7 still intact, undamaged. The plasma bolts had never reached it. Somehow, Earth's defenses had neutralized 3 warships without firing a visible shot. Kael'vor moved to a communication panel and began speaking rapidly in his own language. Responses came back just as quickly, and Hyunwoo could hear the stress in the alien voices even though he couldn't understand the words. They're confirming it, the Admiral said quietly. The destroyers are completely offline. No damage, no casualties, but they might as well be dead ships. How did you do this? You don't need to know how, Daesung said. You just need to know that we can. And that was just 3 ships. Imagine what we could do to your entire fleet if we wanted to. Imagine every ship in your armada frozen like that, drifting helplessly while we decide what to do with them. You could have done that at any time, Kael'vor said, understanding dawning on his face. Since the moment we entered your system, you've been able to neutralize our entire fleet and we never knew. We could have, Dr. Minji confirmed. But we didn't want to. We're not conquerors, Admiral. We're defenders. We don't want to fight you. We want you to leave us alone and go home. That's all we've ever wanted. Kael'vor stood silent for a long moment, staring at the frozen ships on the display. Then he touched his communication device and began speaking again, this time more slowly, more carefully. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the successful defense spread. Guardian 7 was safe. The Talvek attack had been stopped without bloodshed. People danced in the streets, convinced that victory was at hand. But in the Talvek council chamber, the debate had reached a fever pitch. Councillor Thexum demanded immediate full-scale assault. Councillor Ivara argued just as passionately for withdrawal. If we attack now with everything we have, we might win. Thexum said, But the cost will be enormous. These humans have proven they can hurt us. How many ships will we lose? How many Talvek lives will be sacrificed? And for what? Ivara added, pride? This one planet isn't worth the cost. But more importantly, think about what happens if we do conquer them. We'll be teaching a creative, dangerous species that we're their enemies. Better to leave them alone and let time handle the problem. In a few centuries, they'll be our equals. In a millennium, they might be our superiors. But if we make them our enemies now, they'll remember forever. The vote was called. 12 council members deciding the fate of billions of humans who had no idea their lives hung in the balance. On the sovereign's wrath, Hyunwoo watched the countdown timer tick toward 0. 2 hours until the 12-hour deadline expired. 2 hours until Earth and the Talvek Empire either made peace or went to war. Kael'vor's communication device chimed. He listened to the message, his face carefully neutral. Then he turned to face the 3 humans. The High Council has reached their decision, he said slowly. In 1 hour, I will give you their answer. The final hour began, and Hyunwoo wondered if he would live to see Earth again. Part 5. The New Balance. The final hour was the longest of Hyunwoo's life. He paced the observation room while Daesung sat calmly in a chair, looking as if he had not a care in the world. Dr. Minji reviewed her equipment, checking systems that had already been checked a dozen times. All 3 of them were trying not to think about what would happen if the Talvek Council chose war. Admiral Kael'vor stood at the window, watching his frozen ships drift in the void. 3 powerful destroyers reduced to helpless metal coffins in seconds. He had commanded fleets for 40 years, conquered 18 worlds, never known defeat. Now, for the first time in his career, he wondered if he was on the wrong side. The communication device on his wrist chimed exactly 1 hour after his last message. He listened in silence, his face revealing nothing. When the transmission ended, he turned to face the 3 humans. The Talvek High Council has made their decision, he said slowly. By a vote of 7 to 5, they have chosen to accept your ultimatum. The fleet will withdraw from your solar system within the next 6 hours. Hyunwoo felt his knees go weak with relief. Daesung stood slowly, his calm mask finally cracking to show a genuine smile. Dr. Minji closed her eyes and let out a long breath she had been holding. However, Kael'vor continued, and his tone made them all tense again, you should understand what you have done here today. Before this, Earth was an unknown world on the edge of charted space. Now the entire galaxy will hear about what happened. Other species will come to test you. Some will come seeking alliance. Others will come seeking conquest. You have announced your presence to the universe, and the universe is not kind to young species. We'll deal with that when it happens, Daesung replied. For now, we've bought ourselves time. That's all we ever wanted. Time, Kael'vor repeated thoughtfully. Yes, perhaps that is what you need. The Council has authorized me to offer you a formal agreement. We will recognize Earth as a sovereign system. For the next 50 years, the Talvek Empire will not enter your space. We will establish a communication channel but maintain distance. After 50 years, we will reassess the situation. Why 50 years? Hyunwoo asked. Because that is how long we estimate it will take for your species to reach technological parity with the rest of the galaxy, Kael'vor said. If you are still advancing at your current rate, the Council hopes that in 50 years, Earth might become an ally rather than an enemy. We have few true allies in the galaxy. Most species that join us do so out of fear, not respect. You are the first species in my lifetime to earn our respect through strength rather than submission. We'll consider your proposal, Daesung said carefully. But we need to return to Earth and consult with our leaders before we can give an official response. Of course, Kael'vor gestured toward the door. Your ship is ready. Before you go, I want to say something off the record. He stepped closer, his voice lowering. I have been a soldier all my life. I have seen hundreds of species conquer dozens of worlds. Most surrender without fighting. Those that resist do so predictably, following standard military doctrine. You humans did something different. You thought like prey planning to become predators. That terrifies me more than any weapon you showed us, he paused. Then added, in my report to the High Council, I recommended withdrawal not because I believe we would lose, but because I believe the cost of winning would destroy us. Even if we conquered Earth, your people would never truly submit. You would fight us for generations, finding new ways to resist, new weapons to use against us. We would win battles but lose the war through attrition. I have studied military history from 1,000 worlds. I know how these things end. Then you're wiser than most conquerors, Daesung said. They usually learn that lesson too late. The three humans were escorted back through the vast ship, past soldiers who now watched them with wary respect rather than contempt. When they reached the hangar bay where the Defiance waited, Hyunwoo saw that the ship had been refueled and serviced by Talvik engineers. A gesture of goodwill, perhaps, or simply insurance that the humans would leave quickly. As they boarded their small vessel, Hyunwoo looked back at the massive warship that surrounded them. Somewhere in there, Admiral Kaelvor was already giving orders for the fleet's withdrawal. 300 warships that had come to conquer Earth were now preparing to retreat, defeated not by superior firepower but by the threat of it. The Defiance launched from the hangar and began its journey back toward Earth. Behind them, the Talvik fleet was already breaking formation. Ships turned away from Earth, their engines glowing as they prepared for faster-than-light travel. Within hours, the sky above Earth would be clear again. "We did it," Hyunwoo said quietly, still unable to fully believe it. "We actually did it." "We bought time," Dr. Minji corrected him. "Now comes the hard part. We need to actually become as advanced as we pretended to be. And we need to prepare for the others that will come," Daesung added. Kaelvor was right about that. The galaxy knows about us now. Some will come as friends. Many will come as enemies. We need to be ready for both. They flew past Guardian 7, where crews were already working to restore power to the 3 frozen Talvik destroyers. It would take days to unfreeze the systems, but eventually the ships would be functional again, and they would return to their empire carrying stories about the humans who had stopped an invasion without destroying a single enemy vessel. The Defiance entered Earth's atmosphere, and Hyunwoo watched his home planet spread out below him. From space it looked so beautiful and fragile, all those billions of people who had been going about their lives when alien warships arrived to threaten their existence. Now they would get to keep living, keep dreaming, keep building their future. They landed back at the Swiss facility, where General Park and dozens of others were waiting. As the 3 of them emerged from the ship, they were greeted with cheers and applause. Scientists who had spent 30 years preparing for this moment celebrated their vindication. Soldiers who had been ready to die defending Earth celebrated their survival. But Hyunwoo noticed that General Park was not celebrating. The old general watched the festivities with a thoughtful expression, and when he caught Hyunwoo's eye, he gestured for them to follow him to a quieter area. "You did well," General Park said once they were away from the crowds. "Better than we hoped. But now comes the real challenge. The world leaders are already demanding access to our technology. Every nation wants the weapons we built. Every military wants to know our secrets. We can't let that happen," Dr. Minji said firmly. "The weapons we built were designed for defense, not conquest. If every nation has access to them, we'll destroy ourselves before any alien species gets the chance." "I agree," General Park said. "That's why the United Nations has called an emergency session. For the first time in history, they're proposing a true world government, one military, one defense force, one unified command structure. It's the only way we can face the galaxy as equals. Will people accept that?" Hyunwoo asked. "They will if they're smart," Daesung replied. The Talvik came with 300 ships. What happens when someone comes with 3,000 or 30,000? We need to be unified. We need to present a single face to the galaxy. Over the following weeks, Earth transformed. The threat of alien invasion had done what centuries of diplomacy could not. Nations put aside old rivalries and began working together in earnest. Project Threshold was expanded exponentially, with scientists from every country contributing to humanity's defensive capabilities. 6 months after the Talvik fleet's departure, Hyunwoo stood in a new facility, much larger than the one in Switzerland. He now commanded the First Contact Defense Initiative, a military force dedicated to protecting Earth from future threats. Lieutenant Jiwoo served as his second in command, having been promoted after Guardian 7's successful defense. Dr. Minji worked in an adjacent building, leading research into both weapons and peaceful applications of their technology. She had recently made a breakthrough that might lead to faster-than-light travel, which would change everything for humanity. Daesung served as Earth's first ambassador to the greater galaxy. He had already established communication with 3 other species, all of whom had heard about Earth's confrontation with the Talvik Empire. Two were interested in peaceful trade. The third remained neutral but respectful. "Commander," Jiwoo said, interrupting Hyunwoo's thoughts, "we're detecting an anomaly in Sector 7. Unknown vessel approaching Earth." Hyunwoo felt his heart rate increase, old fears rising. "Another threat? Another empire seeking to test humanity? Classification?" he asked. "Small vessel, single occupant, broadcasting on peaceful frequencies," Jiwoo reported. "They're requesting permission to approach." Hyunwoo studied the data on his screen. The ship was unlike anything in Earth's database. Not Talvik, not any species they had encountered before. "Permission granted," he said, "but keep weapons ready just in case." The alien ship landed at the designated coordinates and a single being emerged. It was short, barely reaching Hyunwoo's shoulder, with blue-green skin and large eyes that seemed to sparkle with curiosity. It carried no weapons and made no threatening moves. The Nexus Nebula stretched across 3 light-years of space, dense clouds of ionized gas glowing with radiation from nearby stars. Navigation through the region was difficult even with advanced sensors. Visibility dropped to mere kilometers in the thickest sections. It was exactly the kind of environment where numbers mattered less than skill and coordination. Admiral Jiho positioned his forces carefully throughout the nebula. The combined human and Confederacy fleet numbered approximately 90 warships after recent reinforcements. They faced the Crimson Fleet's 200 vessels, but Jiho intended to make terrain his equalizer. He divided his forces into small task groups, each commanded by officers he trusted to act independently and aggressively. Sol Dawn anchored the central formation along with 3 other heavy cruisers. Commander Hana's task force held the western approaches. Captain Suman's civilian support fleet waited outside the nebula with medical ships and emergency repair facilities. Engineer Jisoo distributed her teams across the fleet, ready to coordinate damage control and weapon optimization during the battle. Dr. Doyun and Dr. Minho worked together in Sol Dawn's science section. They had developed one final surprise for the Krell, a modification to the hybrid shield systems that could amplify spatial distortions. It was experimental and dangerous. If it worked, it might turn the tide. If it failed, they would lose ships they could not afford to spare. The Crimson Fleet arrived exactly when intelligence predicted. Admiral Krell commanded from his flagship Conqueror, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed every other vessel in the nebula. His fleet entered in a standard Krell formation, capital ships in the center with escorts arranged in protective screens. They moved forward confidently, sensors sweeping for enemy contacts. Jiho let them penetrate deep into the nebula before springing his trap. The first attack came from Hana's task force, striking the Crimson Fleet's left flank. Her ships emerged from dense gas clouds at close range, railguns firing before Krell sensors even registered their presence. 3 escorts exploded in the opening salvo. 2 more were crippled before they could raise shields. The Krell formation tried to respond, but the nebula's interference made coordination difficult. Their ships separated slightly as captains maneuvered independently. Jiho saw the gaps opening and ordered the second phase. Human destroyers swept in from multiple directions, firing missiles and breaking away before return fire could connect. Nuclear detonations lit up the nebula like miniature suns. Admiral Krell ordered his fleet to consolidate, pulling ships closer together to concentrate defensive fire. It was the correct tactical response, but Jiho had anticipated it. He committed his heavy cruisers to the center, Sol Dawn leading the charge directly at Conqueror. The 2 fleets collided in the heart of the nebula. The scale of the battle was unlike anything humanity had experienced. Hundreds of ships fought at ranges from kilometers to mere meters. Energy weapons and kinetic projectiles filled space with lethal chaos. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Debris clouds formed hazards that damaged vessels attempting to maneuver through them. Communications became nearly impossible with all the interference. Engineer Jisoo coordinated weapon systems from Sol Dawn's engineering deck. The plasma lances fired continuously, burning through Krell armor at point-blank range. She rerouted power from damaged systems to maintain fire rates, pushing the weapons beyond their designed specifications. 2 lances failed completely, their focusing arrays melted by sustained operation. The third kept firing. Captain Suman watched the battle from outside the nebula, monitoring casualty reports and coordinating rescue operations. Human and Confederacy ships limped out of the fighting, hulls breached and life support failing. Her civilian crews performed miracles, docking with damaged vessels under fire to evacuate wounded personnel. Morningstar alone rescued over 300 survivors during the first 2 hours. Sergeant Taeyang fought aboard Sol Dawn when Krell boarding parties breached the hull. He led his Marines through smoke-filled corridors defending critical systems against warriors determined to disable the flagship. The fighting was savage and personal. Taeyang took a plasma burn to his left arm but kept fighting, knowing that if Sol Dawn fell, the battle was lost. Commander Hana's task force suffered heavy casualties. Liberty's Edge took hits that would have destroyed a less sturdy vessel, but her hybrid shields held just long enough for damage control teams to stabilize critical failures. 2 ships in her formation were destroyed outright, their crews lost in the inferno. Hana pressed forward anyway, targeting Krell capital ships with coordinated strikes that her human allies had taught her. The battle raged for 6 hours without clear advantage. Both fleets were bleeding, ships destroyed or disabled on both sides. Admiral Krell grew frustrated with the humans' refusal to break, despite being outnumbered. These primitives should have routed by now, yet they kept fighting with desperate intensity. He ordered his dreadnoughts forward, intending to crush the human flagship and break their will. Admiral Jiho recognized the danger. If the dreadnoughts reached Sol Dawn, their combined firepower would overwhelm his defenses. He needed to act decisively. He contacted Doyun and Minho, asking if their experimental plan was ready. The 2 scientists exchanged glances. They had managed minimal testing. Success was uncertain, but there were no other options. Doyun explained the plan to Jiho. Every human ship in the fleet would activate their hyperspace drives simultaneously at minimal distance from each other. Normally this was suicidal, as overlapping hyperspace fields caused catastrophic spatial distortions. But the hybrid shield systems could contain and amplify those distortions, creating a massive gravity wave that would propagate outward like a tsunami through normal space. The theory was sound. The reality was that nobody had actually tested it with an entire fleet. If the shield modifications failed, human ships would be torn apart by their own hyperspace fields. If the timing was off, the distortions might cancel out instead of amplifying. If the calculations were wrong, nothing would happen except wasted energy. But if it worked, the gravity wave would devastate everything in its path. Jiho made his decision. He broadcast coded orders to all human vessels. Retreat to designated coordinates. Prepare for simultaneous hyperspace activation on his mark. Do not question. Do not hesitate. Trust the plan and their engineers. The human ships began withdrawing from combat, pulling back from Krell forces toward predetermined positions. Admiral Krell thought the humans were finally breaking. He ordered pursuit, pushing his fleet after the retreating vessels. His dreadnoughts accelerated to maximum speed, closing the distance. This was the moment of victory. The Crimson Fleet would crush these troublesome primitives and restore Dominion supremacy. The human fleet reached the designated coordinates and stopped. All ships oriented their hyperspace drives outward, creating a rough sphere formation. Doyun monitored the shield harmonics, making final adjustments. Minho transmitted activation codes to every vessel. Engineer Jisoo held her breath, hoping her systems would hold together under the incredible stress. Admiral Jiho gave the order. Every human ship activated their hyperspace drive simultaneously. Reality screamed. Overlapping hyperspace fields tore at the fabric of space itself, creating distortions that would normally destroy everything nearby. But the hybrid shields contained and channeled those distortions, forcing them outward in a controlled wave. The modifications that Doyun and Minho had developed worked, amplifying the effect beyond their wildest calculations. The gravity wave propagated outward at faster than light speeds, hitting Jisoo's specially modified gravity mines that had been deployed throughout the battlefield. The mines amplified the distortion further, creating cascading effects that multiplied the wave's destructive power. Space itself became a weapon. The Crimson Fleet died. Krell ships caught in the gravity wave were crushed by forces beyond comprehension. Hulls imploded. Crews were killed instantly. Fusion reactors went critical. Entire battle groups simply ceased to exist, converted to expanding clouds of superheated plasma. The dreadnoughts fared only slightly better, their heavy armor buying seconds of survival before they too succumbed. Admiral Krell's flagship Conqueror lasted longest, its massive shield struggling against the impossible forces. Krell himself stood on the bridge watching destruction consume his fleet. He had conquered dozens of civilizations across his career. He had never imagined defeat, especially not at the hands of a species so primitive. The final thought that crossed his mind before Conqueror exploded was that perhaps the Dominion had finally encountered something they could not overcome. The gravity wave dissipated after traveling several light hours. When space stabilized, Admiral Jiho surveyed the aftermath. The Crimson Fleet was effectively destroyed. Maybe 30 ships survived out of 200, and most of those were crippled. His own fleet had suffered as well. The simultaneous hyperspace activation had stressed human vessels beyond their limits. 8 ships were destroyed by their own drives. Another 15 required extensive repairs, but they had won. Against impossible odds, the combined human and Confederacy forces had broken the Krell's elite military formation. Captain Suman's civilian fleet moved in immediately, rescuing survivors from both sides.